Today, lobster feels luxurious, expensive, celebratory, the kind of meal people post about. But there was a time when lobster had the exact opposite reputation. Lobster was once seen as food for the poor, not because it tasted bad, not because people didn't know how to cook, but because it was unbelievably common. When something is everywhere, people usually don't treat it like treasure. In early North American coastal regions, lobster was so plentiful that it didn't feel special at all. People in parts of colonial North America sometimes encountered lobster in such huge numbers that it became associated with cheap survival food instead of status. This is the key. Lobster had not yet become a symbol of sophistication. It was common, accessible, and often linked to people with fewer choices. Lobster became strongly associated with laborers, servants, apprentices, and even prisoners. That association shaped its social image in a powerful way. Yes, lobster was even fed to prisoners in some places. That doesn't mean everyone hated it, but it absolutely shows how low its status could be. Imagine eating something so often that it stops feeling exciting and starts feeling repetitive. That's part of what happened. Overexposure crushed the glamour, and lobster wasn't always treated as a glamorous meal at all. In some contexts, it was used in practical ways, like bait or fertilizer, because supply felt endless. So how did lobster go from ordinary and low status to expensive and desirable? The answer is transportation, markets, and changing taste. As preservation and canning improved, lobster could travel farther from the coast. And once a food reaches people who don't see it every day, its identity can start to change. Railroads helped too. They moved seafood inland to people who saw lobster as rare, exciting, and worth paying for. Distance created desire. When a food becomes less ordinary and more selective, people begin seeing it differently. What was once cheap and common can suddenly become special and refined. Restaurants played a huge role. Presentation changed. Context changed. And once people experienced lobster as a treat, its reputation kept climbing. And that's the twist I love. The lobster itself didn't magically become better. People changed, markets changed, culture changed. That's what transformed its meaning. If you've ever looked at an expensive dish and thought, that must have always been luxury, this is your reminder. Food status is often a story we build, not a truth that was always there. So the short answer is simple. Lobster was once considered poor people's food because it was abundant, ordinary, and linked to people with low social power. Later, scarcity, transport, and rebranding turned it into luxury. So next time you see lobster on a fancy menu, remember, it wasn't always a symbol of wealth. It became one. And that makes food history way more fascinating. Follow for more stories behind the food on your plate.